Greetings, listeners. Howard and I spoke with a very special guest. He is the chair of an elite litigation law firm here in New York City. Today, we discussed his early career in the Southern District of Manhattan as an assistant U.S. attorney. We discussed how he joined the firm and became chair. We also learned about the culture and values of the firm and how they create opportunities for their young associates. Enjoy. Welcome, everyone, to the Futures Bright podcast. My name is Chris Batz and joined by my co-host, Howard Rosenberg. Howard and I are at the epicenter of law firm talent and strategic growth here in New York City. Howard is a partner and head of talent intelligence and acquisitions at Barretts & Brunell, and I advise and facilitate corporate law firm mergers at Columbus Street. And today, we have a very exciting guest, Mr. Matthew Schwartz, chair of Boies Schiller Flexner. Matthew, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
So, Matt, obviously there's been a number of events that have taken place, as well as you rising to this role. Can you give us a really brief overview of your journey at the firm and then now becoming chair of the firm?
Sure. So I joined Boies Schiller Flexner just over 10 years ago, having spent most of my career before that as an assistant U.S. attorney in the Southern District of New York, where I handled both civil cases for the government, especially during the financial crisis, where I had the privilege of getting involved in some really historic matters, including representing the Treasury Department during the bailout of the car companies. And then in the financial crisis, a number of companies were tipped into bankruptcy through fraud, most notably Bernie Madoff's firm. And so I started working on that and then moved over completely to the criminal side for the last several years in the office, where, among other things, I worked on the investigation of all things Madoff related. I oversaw the investigation of the London whale, if you remember that one, the loss of several $1 billion in JP Morgan's chief investment office. And then in 2015, after about 10 years in government, I left and joined Boies Schiller along with several of my colleagues from the Southern District, really to strengthen the global investigations and white collar practice here. And over the last 10 years, we've had a great experience. We've all gotten a chance to get involved in firm management since the beginning of 2021. So this is my 5th year. I've been one of the firm-wide managing partners. And then at the end of 2023, I was elected chairman beginning this year as the first chairman not named Boies at the firm.
And Matt, was it you were thinking to eventually join a law firm after DOJ, or were you going to be like a DOJ lifer and then things took place that invited you into this firm?
No, I didn't think that I was going to spend my entire career in government. I was there for a good stretch. I had a tremendous diversity of experience, and I left when I felt that I was ready to do something else.
Yeah. And was Boies always the firm in your mind?
It was certainly one of the firms in my mind. Boies Schiller was founded in 1997, which was just before I started law school. The 2000 election and Bush v. Gore happened when I was in law school, and David Boies represented Al Gore, so he was all over the news. So, it was an exciting place. In my memory, I actually applied to the firm as a 3L and did not get an offer. So when I left government, I wanted to right that wrong. So certainly one of the firms that was on my list, yes.
And Matt, going back, why did you want to become a lawyer?
That's a good question. And I really wasn't sure I wanted to become a lawyer until I was in law school. So there are no lawyers in my family. People in my family have had a wide variety of jobs, white collar and blue collar, but no lawyers. So I didn't have that experience. In college, I actually thought I was going to be a scientist, and I majored in philosophy and physics. And then when the time came to really choose a profession, I realized that while I was good enough in physics to get good grades in college, I neither really had the passion or the aptitude to spend the next 50 or 60 years of my life doing it. So I thought, what else did I like to do? I've never been much of a competitive athlete, but I was a competitive debater, both in high school and college. And there's no career for that, but this is sort of like that. So I thought I'd give it a try. And when I graduated college in 1999, law school was still a thing that people just did to kind of keep their options open.
Right.
But it wasn't until my first summer when I interned for a federal judge here in the Southern District and got to see lawyers in the courtroom and got to see assistant U.S. attorneys and defense lawyers, especially handling interesting cases, that I said, oh, this is what I want to do. I want to do that job in particular.
Yeah. Matt, so you had mentioned, some really high level, very visible national global cases that you've worked on. I'd love to hear what lessons you've learned from those experiences that you bring with you into private practice.
I think it's very hard to extract lessons from cases that are unique because of the attributes that you just identified. Representing the Treasury Department during the financial crisis was an absolute whirlwind. The president of the United States was on television talking about the bankruptcy case that was going to be filed the next day of General Motors that I was going to be in court on. And the things that I was working on had implications that went far beyond the courtroom. That was true for those cases. That was true for, the Madoff investigation, for example, where people had lost tens of billions of dollars. And we helped not only to hold the guilty people accountable, but also to recover, with the help of a lot of others, a substantial portion of that. So I'm not sure what lesson is generalizable from cases like that, other than no matter how big or small a case is, the attention to detail matters, and understanding the client's real aim is the most important thing. In those cases where the client's aims were not just getting a conviction or making sure some particular motion gets approved in the bankruptcy court, but rather, saving the auto industry or recovering billions of dollars to victims of crime. That's what those cases are about. Now in private practice, I make sure that I'm not only asking, how do I deal with the legal problem in front of me and how do I win the case, but also what is it that my client is really trying to accomplish?
So let me ask Chris's question in a different way. What's the parallels between kind of being obviously a top rank lawyer, but leadership? Now you're leading the firm, different set of skills, different way to kind of motivate people. How do you enjoy that aspect of the job? Does that come naturally to you, given your background?
I don't know if it comes naturally. Other people can be the judge of that, but I do enjoy it. Look, I enjoy the variety, for sure, and thinking about the business problems as well as, I still have a full-time active practice. I'm going to try 3 cases between now and the end of the year if nothing changes. So I certainly enjoy the variety, but I do enjoy the leadership, and it's been an incredible learning curve. I went from 10 years ago, leaving government and not having to bill my time, let alone think about the business of law, let alone think about the management and growth of an institution, to now helping run this organization. And I think there are a few skills that translate. First and foremost is clear communication, right? Whether I'm talking to a judge or a jury or the media or a government agency or a client or my partners, speaking clearly and understandably and being responsive to the questions that I'm being asked or the things that really matter to them is critically important. Two is credibility. Again, no matter who your audience is, having credibility is key to trust, and trust is key to leadership. And then in particular, government is interesting because in the one sense, you don't have a client. In another sense, you have many, many different clients and many different stakeholders. And learning to navigate those stakeholders and their interests without, I think, the one tool that is used most often in business to motivate, and that's compensation, teaches you a lot of skills that are really important. And so then when you add that other tool, it just unlocks a lot. But being able to navigate the competing and sometimes contradictory interests of different stakeholders and still coming to a place that feels fair to everyone through a process that feels fair to everyone and a result that has consensus. I think that's the way I was taught in government to lead. That's the way we have always operated as a firm, and that's certainly what I try to do now.
And what's been the hardest thing in leadership, given kind of your kind of exposure to the role?
Delegation, probably. Learning to take your hands off of the reins and not taking everything on my own plate, but using all of the resources here and trusting them. That's, I think, important to empowering the people that I work with, that they have responsibility and they have meaningful leadership of their own, but also it unlocks my ability to do my job.
Yeah. Matt, let's talk a little bit about that role of yours and the position that you hold. Over the next 5 years, or actually, quick question, how long is your term?
The individual terms are 3 years. That's a big change. Until I was elected, the term of the chairman was 1 year.
Okay.
And we reelected the same chairman every year. But the thinking was that we needed at least some degree of runway, and we'll see how that goes. But we're now about 8 months into the first year of a first 3-year term.
Okay. So thinking you have a little bit more than 2 years from now to implement change, if it's not renewed, how do you look at growth? How are you guys positioning for growth? How are you thinking about growth? Would love to hear about that.
Yeah, I think any organization needs to grow in some way. We think about growth in a few different ways. And over the last few years, since I've been one of the managing partners, we have been focused on growth, both at the senior level and at the junior lawyer level, and in our professional and business staff. We think about growth in terms of absolute numbers and critical mass, particularly at the junior levels. We think about growth in terms of practices and where our clients need us to be now and where our clients are going to need us to be, and we try and sort of meet our clients where they're going and not where they are. And then we think about geographic growth. And over the last few years, we have grown modestly but intentionally on all three fronts. So, overall, our headcount has increased, I think, about 20% over the last few years. At the partner level, we have seen more incoming lateral partners than in any other period in the firm's history. And then geographically, in the last few years, we, in addition to moving and relocating a few offices, we opened in the EU for the first time, and I think we're targeting some additional geographic growth in the immediate future.
Yeah. And how would you describe, because I know quality is like really, really important to you guys. How are you guys attracting the type of talent you're looking for? What's your approach? What's that sell for people to know that they're coming to an environment where there's consistency and you guys are preserving culture?
Yeah, so you're exactly right. Quality excellence is the first criteria in our recruiting efforts. Again, whether it's someone coming out of law school or clerkship, or whether it's an established lawyer. And number one is identifying excellence, and I think we're pretty good at that. And at the partner level, we try and target people that we know and have had exposure to, so we know firsthand that they are excellent at what they do. And then the sell to them, I think, is pretty straightforward. If you are a junior lawyer, you will get experiences here more often, faster than you will any place else. Our junior lawyers, our first years, are taking and defending depositions. They are standing up at trial with speaking roles, questioning witnesses. They are arguing motions. They are dealing with opposing counsel. They're dealing with courts. They are dealing with clients. They are doing primary drafting. We rely on our young lawyers for a lot. At the senior level, I think the pitch is about independence. Excellence is quality number one that we look for. I think quality number two is judgment and integrity, because we give our lawyers incredible autonomy to run their practices and handle their cases and build their business in the way that they think is appropriate. And we try and bring people here that we can grow around, looking to them for the best way to do that. And that's also very much a lesson that I learned in government. In the one sense, the government is, I guess, literally the biggest bureaucracy there is in the country. But at least where I was in the Department of Justice, the approach was always hire really good people, ensure to the extent you can that they have the ethics and the judgments, and then let them do their thing. And that's very much our approach as well. And for the right kind of person, that is incredibly freeing. And, people blossom here in ways that I'm not sure they realized was possible professionally, because we also have a lot of fun. We all enjoy what we're doing. We enjoy each other. We're a bunch of trial nerds. We all kind of do the same thing. And being in an atmosphere where everyone is smart, everyone has freedom, and everyone likes what they're doing is incredibly attractive.
Matt, would love to kind of get your thoughts on staying on, obviously, the firm's values of excellence and judgment. What are you seeing with the advance of technology, the AI technology coming on stream, obviously changing the way the work is done, and different levels of the work is maybe being done differently? Can you love to hear your comments on that?
Yes, although I feel like everyone has a take on AI, and I'm not sure mine is going to be particularly unique, but it's obviously a game changer. It's a game changer in a number of different ways, but we don't know exactly how yet. It's something that we are spending a lot of time focusing on for our practice, for our clients, and for our cases, as we now have a number of cases that center on AI technology. So in our practice, I think for a firm like ours that is a litigation-only firm that handles the biggest disputes in the world, for both plaintiffs and defendants, for both paying clients and on cases that we invest in with our own time and money, tools that allow us to be both more efficient and more thorough are incredibly powerful. And so, we have spent a lot of time thinking about how to implement those tools. We have a working group of lawyers and business and technology professionals, excuse me, that is studying different products and different use cases. We have presentations to our lawyers. We have later on this year hackathon schedule. So it's something that we're really leaning into, as are our clients, and so we're trying to understand it from our clients' perspective, and we're also trying to understand the risks and the dangers, because that certainly exists as well. We are heavily involved, as I said, in a number of cases involving AI, especially at the intersection of intellectual property and the extent to which large language models are trained on protected intellectual property, and or the output of those models can infringe on intellectual property. So, it runs through all aspects of our business, all kinds of cases, in ways that we're starting to understand, and in ways that we won't understand for a long time. But I know it's really, really important.
Yeah. Along those same lines, with emerging trends that are very front of mind, private equity is coming into the law firm industry. I'm sure you've heard about it. And what it could be doing to provide growth capital to law firms who want to invest in tech talent and other kinds of initiatives. Do you guys have a perspective or a thought around this?
Well, it's funny. I actually literally was speaking yesterday to a private equity client who's got an investment like this. I think it's an interesting opportunity. I think it is potentially dangerous. Over certainly the course of my career and longer, the profession of law has moved more and more towards the business of law. And when we allow, as other countries have, as Arizona has, non-lawyers to take ownership interests in law firms, on the one hand, that brings liquidity. It brings different skill set, different perspective that can be incredibly profitable, but it also risks detracting from law as a profession. So I think it's a real opportunity, but one that has to be approached cautiously.
And Matt, what keeps you up at night? What do you worry about the most, either in terms of either the business or the industry, or maybe even something else beyond that? Love to hear what that might be.
I sleep pretty well at night. But if you're asking me what the biggest management challenges
Yeah.
are, I think that there are various changes that provide obstacles and provide opportunities. The one that I think is more obstacle than opportunity is the increasing cost of litigation. And again, we're a disputes only firm, so litigation, arbitration, investigations, and that has become very, very expensive, and very expensive at the expense often, I think, of clients being able to pursue their rights in a way that is economically rational, in a way that detracts from the legal process, getting to the truth of things. And look, that's a place where technology like AI may be incredibly helpful. If it can reduce a layer of cost and make the practice of law more efficient so that we can focus on the place where we really add value, which is our judgment, our wisdom, and our advocacy, then I think that's, a very good thing for the practice of law and for the legal system as a whole.
Matt, how has mentorship shaped your journey, and what role do you play to that today? Do you mentor anyone at a firm?
Um, I think mentorship is incredibly important. Through my career, I would say most mentorship has been organic. The people that I've been working with have talked to me about matters. I began my career after a very, very, very short stint in private practice, clerking, and the judges for whom I clerked, especially the first judge for whom I clerked, was an incredible mentor, such an incredible mentor, in fact, that last year I had the honor and the privilege to recruit her to Boies Schiller. So Judge Shinlin is now of counsel to Boies Schiller, and while it's a little bit jarring to see her walking around the hallways here instead of in chambers, she's been formative in my career. And then, in government, the practice was, was always sort of like being a doctor. You watch someone doing it, then you do it under supervision, and then you teach someone to do it. And so, I'm here at the firm with my first trial partner, also Pete Skinner, and people like that who have been formative to my career, continue to play a very important role. And I try to do the same thing, and I try to encourage people to do the same thing, to give feedback, to give opportunities, most importantly. And I think in our firm, young lawyers are given opportunities very, very early. And I think that's, really in our culture, the most important form of mentorship is, let me give this opportunity to you, let me coach you on it, let me give you feedback afterwards. But that's something that we're very focused on.
Is there any formal inverse or reverse mentoring happening at the firm?
Reverse mentoring, like
well, I say the young associates kind of mentoring, giving kind of support to some of the partners because of the technology aspect, because of the changes in the profession, social media.
We have an incredibly, I won't even say collegial, informal, flat structure. And so, we have lunch in the office every day. People sit around in the lunchroom and are talking about their cases. And so, senior partners are running ideas by people who have no involvement in the case. Whoever's sitting at the table, partners, associates, professional staff, certainly, technology. Yes, there is. I'm not sure I would have used the word mentorship, but there's no shortage of feedback from throughout the firm to management and to the partnership.
Yeah. So Matt, how has the firm responded to the very apparent tumultuous last 6-8 months in the United States with the White House targeting large law firms?
Well, look, we've been fortunate not to have been implicated directly, and that's correct. There's no reason that we should have been, and every reason for us not to have been. But it's certainly something that we have been watching carefully because, there but for the grace of God go I. And we've been watching these cases proceeding through the courts as law firms have challenged the executive orders. And, I can't say I've studied the legal issues in great depth, but it seems to me the courts are reaching the correct conclusion. And look, that's the way checks and balances are supposed to work. And I know that there's a lot of talk of constitutional crisis, and certainly we might get there. But law firms have gone to court, judges have done their jobs, and the executive has, at least in this case, honored those orders. And we're paying careful attention to that. We're, always willing to take on the causes of clients who have substantial legal issues or, are in difficult situations. So it's something that we monitor very closely.
So Matt, I know you said you sleep really well, but I have one final question. What do you do for fun?
Besides the lawyering?
Before, if that's possible, yes.
I really do enjoy what I do. So this is fun. And like I said, I have 3 trials scheduled between now and the end of the year, and that's incredibly exciting to me. But it's not the only thing that I do. I have a great family, and that certainly takes my time.
It's good for your negotiation skills.
Sometimes. I'm not sure that they fight fair.
Terrorists.
But no, great family, great friends. I enjoy movies and sporting events and, all that New York City has to offer.
So, Matt, if you wouldn't mind, finish this sentence for me. The future is bright because?
Well, I mean, at the risk of repeating what I just said, I think the future is bright because, we're here. I have great family. I have great friends. I have great partners. I have great colleagues. I love what I do. I get to do good sometimes doing it. So what reason is there not to be optimistic?
Yeah. And Matt, how can they find you, follow you on social media?
I'm available on LinkedIn and other social media platforms.
Great. And Matt, it's been an honor and pleasure. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you for being on the show, Matt.
Thanks for having me.